On VSiN PrimeTime alongside Jonathan Von Tobel. I am Tim Murray. We have 3 NBA playoff games tonight. We have 2 NHL playoff games this evening, including one here in town as the Las Vegas Golden Knights take on the Dallas Stars after a marathon on Saturday. JVT, how are you, sir? How are you feeling wearing your Clippers red here on this lovely Monday? Feeling quite good about the performance from your beloved Los Angeles Clip Show.
Well, if we're being particularly honest, I'm not really feeling great for a couple of reasons. First off, my dry cleaning lady lied to me. My sport coats were not clean by this morning, so I had to wear this sweater. I had to put it down to about 69 degrees in the studio. Don't really love that. The red is actually not for the Clippers. It's actually the blood that was spilled by the Nashville Predators, who blew it over the weekend against the Vancouver Canucks. How do you miss an empty net goal? And I kind of feel naked. I feel kind of naked without a sport coat on. You know, all my opinions are going to be worse now, so I'm not feeling too great.
Oh man, now you've just sucked in everybody here on the program, so we're ready to go on a Monday here.
Boy, oh boy, how about that win, baby? Huh? The reincarnation of the 2017 Golden State Warriors. Nobody gave him a shot. Oh, my gosh. Oh, man, just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. The Mavericks, I don't know what happened. I thought they were going to go undefeated on the way to the playoffs to face the Phoenix Suns. And yet, here we are now. Oh, boy. Plans. You know, what is it? Best laid plans of mice and men often go awry. Didn't go awry. James Harden's floater in the fourth quarter, baby. What a win for the Clippers yesterday. That's right. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere.
Would you have come to work today if the lead that they did blow had finished with a Dallas victory? 30-point lead. Dallas takes a 105-104 lead. Kyrie Irving, the theatrics.
No need to think about it.
That's asking. But they didn't, because Paul George had the onions on that baseline jumper. And the Clippers were able to...
would have packed up my family.
Moved?
Yep.
Moved out of Las Vegas?
Would have changed my name. Would have started working at like an Albertsons or something like that.
Hey, nothing wrong with that.
Right. I just mean for the anonymity, not for like the step down or anything.
I got you. Well, 3 games tonight as the Los Angeles Lakers try to stave off elimination again, and they will visit the Denver Nuggets. TBD on Jamal Murray dealing with an ankle/calf injury. Is it more calf or more ankle?
I believe it's listed with the calf issue, so that's the one that you're kind of monitoring. And he did, for those who watched the game on, Saturday, right? Because today's Monday. Yep. Did deal with it on Saturday. Kind of came up limp a little bit there in the fourth quarter. Did play through it, but ultimately, as we have kind of learned, we just got the news today that Giannis Antetokounmpo probably not going to go tomorrow in an elimination game for the Milwaukee Bucks. Calf issues can be tricky, and with a 3-1 series lead back at home here in this game, the friendly confines of Ball Arena, do you try to get them some rest against the Los Angeles Lakers and hope that your shooting woes correct themselves and that you can at least get by, win a game, and then take some time off and get ready for the Minnesota Timberwolves, let him heal a little bit? So that's going to be the real question, because calf injuries are serious. Jamal Murray hasn't played particularly well outside of the big shot at the end of Game 2. So this might be something that's been bothering him, and he has been dealing with injuries pretty much all year long. So this might be I think this is a bigger deal. It's a big deal and a little deal at the same time, right? It's a little deal because you're up 3-1 and you're going back home. It's a big deal in that, you know, if he misses this game, and we can get into the details of LeBron James and Anthony Davis and how well they have done statistically in this series, and you end up coughing this one up, and all of a sudden it's 3-2, and he's not healthy. You're going back to L.A., it's a little and a big deal at the same time.
And I start sweating that series price. It looked like
it
was
-1.5,
never
right?
in doubt. But we'll see here tonight. Lakers right now 6.5, actually a 7 here at Circa. So that just popped shortly ago. So the Nuggets laying 7 here at Circa. It's a juice 7, so -120 for the Lakers, even money for the Nuggets. The interesting thing, I'm sure will get brought up a lot, and we'll talk about it too, is that first half spread of 3.5. Denver right now laying 3.5. It's a lightly juiced 3.5, -105 towards the Denver Nuggets in most spots. As most of you know by now, bears repeating, the Los Angeles Lakers have indeed led at the half of all 4 games so far in this series. Nuggets winning the first 3, didn't get there on Saturday night, but no Jamal Murray. How does this Nuggets team come out after taking their first loss in this series on Saturday night in L.A.?
Well, and that's the big thing here for me, Jamal Murray aside, and I wrote about this up on the website today, VSiN.com. It is the shooting for Denver. It has been non-existent. If you look at it for the series, the Nuggets are shooting just 28.2% from three. They're a better shooting team than that. On uncontested threes, so defenders 6 feet or further away, Tim, they're shooting 25% from three. That's generally, right? If I'm not in front of you, you should shoot a little bit better than that. So when you look at just the shooting woes for Denver, it's pretty fascinating to watch a team that generally shoots pretty well have nothing when it comes to the shots from beyond the arc. KCP has been struggling. So when you look at it too, like, is that going to correct itself without Jamal Murray? Now that you're back at home, you played 2 games at home, but you still really weren't that good from beyond the arc. Is this going to regress to the mean? You're going to find your shot. Guys like KCP are going to find their shot, and you're going to be able to win this game. And the other part about it is, if your shooting does not fix itself with your primary guard not playing, LeBron James and Anthony Davis, as I mentioned, have eaten this team alive offensively. They've actually played very well. Anthony Davis comes into this game averaging 30 and 16 on 62% shooting from the floor. The LeBron James and Anthony Davis pick and roll has been dominant against the Denver Nuggets. And so if you're going to come into this game and you just kind of spam that thing over and over and over again, and Anthony Davis, who's completely owned Nikola Jokic on the other end of the floor, right, making him defend, and he's defending at a poor level against AD, it's not out of the realm of possibility. The Lakers team is, as you mentioned, has led at halftime in both of these games, or excuse me, all of these games at this point right now, has played extremely well. Like, steals one here if Jamal Murray doesn't play, and that's why this thing is so massive. And you do wonder if AD, the point total hasn't budged a ton from the start of the series, Tim.
25.5.
Yep. And you look at his points and rebounds as well. I mean, he had over 20 rebounds the other day, too.
23?
Yeah, something like 23, 24. You do wonder if, again, this just lines up for another big game for Anthony Davis, because in this series and in the past, regardless of what Jokic has done on offense, AD has had a ton of success on offense himself against Jokic.
If you're wondering, Anthony Davis, as mentioned, his over-under on points, 25.5. Rebounds is 13.5 for this game. LeBron James, his over-under on points tonight, 26.5 at DraftKings. I did see one shop out there, no surprise here. Basically every single ticket that has been wagered on that particular prop has been to the over. LeBron James in his career, 33.6 points per game in closeout games.
And if you look at VSiN.com and our handy-dandy player prop analyzer, you can see that Anthony Davis, for the most part, has done pretty well here. You look at it, he's gone over his point total prop in 3 out of the last 4 games. In this series, started at 23.5 for his points prop, got up to as high as 26.5 in the last game. So you haven't seen too much of an adjustment there for him. The real question is where he's going to be on rebounds, because that's the other part is he's absolutely crushed this team on the glass relatively often in this series, and he's gone over in 3 of the 4 games that they've played. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see if that's going to be the case for him, but that's one of the things you're circling here. Is Anthony Davis going to come out and have a really big game? Because he's had a massive series so far for the Lakers, despite the fact that they're down 3-1.
The Boston Celtics look to go up 3-1 tonight, so some people thought maybe this would be a situation of a sweep. Not the case. Obviously, Game 2 went to the Miami Heat after they were in fuego from long range. That number has budged, went down a little bit, came back up. We're sitting now 10.5 JVT. Boston laying 10.5 on the road against the Miami Heat. We do have the potential of a sweep with Oklahoma City at New Orleans, and after that Game 1 close game, it has been all Oklahoma City. They have absolutely dominated the Pelicans, including Saturday, winning 106-85. The Heat, by the way, lost by 20 in Game 3. So you got 2 teams tonight in the Pelicans, JVT, and the Heat, who lost on Saturday at home, both by 20 points.
And you talk about adjustments. We mentioned this with Nuggets and Lakers, right?
Yep.
Go back to Game 3 for Oklahoma City and New Orleans. Thunder were just a 1-point favorite, right? Team down 2-0, going back home, positive situation. Nope, this team is led by the coach of the year, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, potential MVP. They were well prepared. They came out and they whooped the New Orleans Pelicans. And now you see this adjustment. Tim, the 2 games in Oklahoma City, they closed as 7 and 7.5 point favorites. And now here you are laying 5 on the road in Game 4 against New Orleans. We've come a long way for the power rating for this team and where they are at. So I think that's, for this one, this is pretty simple. You as a bettor just have to ask yourself, all right, look, the team is better, right? The Oklahoma City Thunder are clearly the better team, but are you going to lay a number that is clearly at the top of the market given from where we were at the start of this series to where we're at right now? And that's the tough part. I think it's pretty easy, right? We talk about this all the time. A couple of buckets for the Pelicans. You're going to get a much lighter number here for the Oklahoma City Thunder. It's going to be the better way to go to attack this game given where you're at for the market. And the other game that you mentioned, yeah, it's kind of funny. Heat culture doesn't replicate nearly 60% shooting performances from three. Kind of weird, huh? I mean, I thought that was all about Heat culture in Game 2, not about the ridiculous shooting performance.
Spo, greatest coach ever. Even though I'm not knocking Spo. Spo's a really good coach, but I don't know. Maybe they just shot ridiculously well from long range.
By the way, good on our colleague Femi Abebefe. Enough with the nonsense out there. Like, I can't believe that Eric Spoelstra's never won Coach of the Year before. You vote for him, all right? You decide who wins these awards, media. So don't just sit there. Like Femi had a great tweet. I don't know what the show is. The guy in the hot dog costume. We're all looking for the guy who did this, right? Like, this is you guys, okay? Stop with this nonsense. But look, they're doing everything they possibly can. They're doing we'll call it the Oakland, right? They are averaging this series under 90 possessions per game and taking over 40% of their attempts from three. The Heat are doing everything you need to do to spring an upset, and guess what? They did it.
They did
in Game 2.
They won in Boston. And I think everybody came in game, tried to get a cheap price on the Boston Celtics, and it wasn't to be.
Right.
They stayed hot.
But the thing with that is, it's good for a one-off. Over the course of a best-of-7 series, you're probably not going to be able to spring too many upsets playing that kind of basketball, and you saw that transpire over the weekend. Celtics are just a smidge better than the Miami Heat, I think.
Heat are trying to petition the NBA to turn it into an NCAA tournament type of
single elimination. They still would have been screwed.
That's
true.
They lost game one, yeah.
Good point.
It's JVT. I'm Tim Murray. The Raiders took Brock Bowers, and the Golden Knights hit the ice later on tonight. Our good friend Adam Hill joins us next.
This is VSiN PrimeTime with Tim Murray and Jonathan Von Tobel on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
I was expecting a read, sitting back.
I knew.
That's Jonathan Von Tobel. I'm Tim Murray. It is VSiN PrimeTime.
Good papers for.
Yeah, that's true. Read the rundown. Well, on the rundown, it does say we have a guest right now on our progressive guest line, and that would be from the Las Vegas Review-Journal. Adam Hill joins us right now, and he was marveling in the performance on Saturday night from Logan Thompson, goaltender for the Vegas Golden Knights, which we'll get to momentarily. Game 4 tonight at T-Mobile here in Vegas, but let's start with what we saw on Thursday, which was at pick 13. The Las Vegas Raiders decided to select a tight end in Brock Bowers. Now, you can make the argument that, as I've heard from a number of people, Adam, you remove the TE and just make him kind of a OW, offensive weapon, and he'll be, fit right there with this offense.
Aiden O'Connell was the name you were looking for there.
But ultimately, how did the Raiders come to this decision at 13 to take Brock Bowers? Because I know there was one shop in town that had pretty long odds on the Raiders going tight end with their first selection of the draft.
Yeah, they probably should have long odds on it because of a lot of reasons. But yeah, to your point, really the only way for this is if you do, as you say he's not a tight end. He's an offensive weapon. He's a guy that's going to line up all over the field. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. First of all, to invest in a tight end first round, it's very risky anyway. Do it the year after you used a second round pick tight end is baffling, really. But Bowers is he's an unbelievable talent. He's a great player. I think you're going to find ways to use him for sure. I think you can have both. He can be a fantastic player, a tremendous talent, and also a questionable pick. And I think that's kind of where I've the only way you can look at it and justify it is that he's not a tight end. But I've heard that kind of scramble job a little bit quite a few times over the last few days. It still doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It doesn't mean he's not going to be a really good player. I think he really can accomplish a lot at this level. Question is who's throwing him the fit in. And I guess one of the other questions is, what does this mean for the future of the offense? Like, if they can get away from Devontae Adams' contract after this year? Do they see Brock Bowers lining up as more of an outside guy and saying, well, we might not have that unbelievable standout number one wide receiver anymore, so he has to fit in a little bit in that role? Like, we'll see. I think there's a lot of questions that this opens up, but I think what the Raiders decided was he was the best talent available at the time that they selected. It was more important to get the best player than to fill some of the needs they had. And, they didn't have any more quarterback options there, so this is the direction they went.
All right, so as we look at this team right now, Adam, and post-draft and everything that they did at this point, looking at their class, I think one of the things that would be surprising for a lot of people is no signal caller, right? In any shape or form in any of these rounds. So this seems like it would be Aiden O'Connell's job. What is this offense as we move into next year? What do you think the ceiling is for a team that has some pretty decent skill positions added along the offensive line, but at the most important position seems mediocre on the surface?
Well, first of all, we can get into that, but why would you think it's Aiden O'Connell's job over Gardner Minshew?
Minshew mania, baby.
Because I watched a lot of Colts football. Gardner Minshew stunk last year. That's why.
I watched a lot of Raiders football.
Well,
how about we agree to this? Both those quarterbacks less than ideal.
I mean, yes, but at the very least, you argue like Aiden O'Connell's got the upside of being like the slightly younger, like, hey, maybe he'll develop into something that doesn't live in a trailer kind of guy, you know?
Maybe, but he can't. He just can't move, and I don't see. I just don't see a path. Gardner Minshew at least can move a little bit, even though he's older. I just don't see a path to, unless you're just the greatest pocket passer of all time, to just be a guy that can sit in the pocket and not move at all and succeed at this level of the NFL. So I think it's interesting. I did love a lot of the jokes and the memes and things going around Twitter saying the Raiders are going to have receivers wide open all over the field and just nobody to throw it to them, which would be a funny thing to watch, I guess, on offense. But I think Minshew has a slight advantage going into camp over Aiden O'Connell, but neither is a Super Bowl winning option for sure. So I think that's the first thing you look at with where this offense is right now. But I think that they're going to be pretty good on the offensive line. I love the second round pick of JPJ, Jackson Powers Johnson. I think he's going to slot right in, be a starter there. Thayer Munford, a lot of people said they needed a right tackle. I think he's a guy that has developed quite a bit. He'll be all right on the right side, and the left side is really set in stone already. So they're going to be decent on the line. They have some talent at the receivers and all over the place there. And defensively, they were better than the sum of their parts last year. I thought they were really good. So if they can get one cornerback to emerge out of this group of rookies and guys that they signed, like they're a decent team. And I actually think that's what's so disappointing about where the Raiders are right now. Like they're just okay again, and they've just kind of been stuck in the middle for so long. I don't think they're significantly better than they were last year. I don't think they're significantly worse, which means they're going to be in the middle of the first round again next year and probably not be able to find a quarterback that way. But what they do have is if they are able to find a quarterback, maybe in free agency, maybe through a trade, like there's a pretty good roster to drop them into right now. And I think that was the goal of this draft, to just build through the trenches, build through the corners. They got some young secondary players as well. Like have a team that is ready. Once a quarterback is dropped in, they are ready to compete. And I think that's kind of where they are.
Adam Hill joining us here on VSiN PrimeTime on a Progressive guest line, and he is, of course, covering tonight's Golden Knights game, which we'll get to momentarily. Just circling back to the draft, I know, from a gambling perspective, doesn't really have much meaning now, but if Michael Penix was there at 13, would they have grabbed him, and did they try, Adam, to move up to get Michael Penix during draft night?
Those are the stories. There are some stories out there. People I talked to in the organization tried to deny that, but that's what you see, right? You see the team that tried, they say, no, we didn't. And the team that, was taking the calls, yeah, they called us. So it's kind of hard to sift the bottom. I know, like I said, I think the people that I've talked to have kind of been back and forth a little bit on whether that happened. They are absolutely clear that they tried to trade up for Jaden Daniels. It did not happen. So that's a move they tried to make. As far as Penix goes, I do think there was probably some disagreement. And I'll tell you this: there's two other reporters that I trust pretty well for Raiders things, and one is very adamant that they did try, and one's very adamant that they didn't try. So I think that tells you everything you basically need to know. There was some disagreement there about whether they were going to try to make that move, but I think you can pretty clearly see they weren't overly aggressive, at least, in trying to make that move up. Once they weren't able to get Jaden Daniels, I think that they pretty much shifted the strategy of the draft, and that was kind of an all-in for Jaden kind of a situation. And as it got closer to the draft, they realized they weren't going to be able to do that.
All right, let's move to tonight, where the Vegas Golden Knights are going to take on the Dallas Stars. Logan Thompson, first goalie off the ice in morning skate, so it looks like he is going to be in net. Will these frauds give him some help? 43 shots he had to turn away the other day, huh?
And it wasn't just 43 shots. I mean, not all shots created equal. It was breakaways, rushes, just wide open from the slot. That was about as bad as I've seen the Golden Knights play in a long, long time. And that was, a big playoff game for them. Now, granted, they were up 2-0 in the series. They weren't facing a whole lot of pressure and desperation. Dallas clearly was desperate. Dallas played unbelievably well. The Knights played unbelievably bad, and it still got to overtime, right? So I think you can credit Logan Thompson a lot for that. Logan Thompson has answered a lot of questions in this series. He gave up a terrible goal in Game 1, just a terrible goal that I'm willing to say JVT would have stopped. And he allowed that goal, and I think a lot of people said, look, that's the moment. That's where he's going to fall apart. His confidence is going to be destroyed, and it wasn't. He bounced back. He held on at the end of that game, got the win, played okay in Game 2, and then played the game of his life in Game 3, despite losing the game. There was some big debates in the press box. I think Logan Thompson's performance in Game 3 was the best hitting performance in the postseason Golden Knights history, and they lost. That's how good he was. And so if he could play at that level, there's no way the team is going to play that bad around him again. And I think if that's the Logan Thompson we see for the rest of the playoffs, the Knights are going to be a threat to make a long run.
As somebody who gave up 12 goals one time in roller hockey, I will confidently say I could have turned that goal away. Yes.
Yeah. It was just a glove save from the blue line. It wasn't even tricky. There was no screen or nothing. He just missed it. It was like a second baseman dropping a soft line drive.
So before we let you run, Adam, tonight, 6:30 Pacific, 9:30 Eastern, puck drop there at T-Mobile. Vegas has, or Dallas has gotten some money in the market. They're out to a minus 120 favorite or so. Do you disagree with this movement?
Well, look, it's close to a pick-up at this point. I think Vegas. Well, I'll tell you this: they're going to play a better game. There's no question. They can't be any worse. They're going to play better. I think that they understand a little bit of where they need to be because, like I said, Dallas had all the desperation in the world. Vegas wasn't able to match that. I think they are able to match that today, knowing, hey, you don't want to be tied 2-2 after winning 2 games on the road to start the series. I think the Knights get the job done. I think they bounce back and win this game. But I understand the money on Dallas because Dallas looked like a far superior team in Game 3 on Saturday night. I just think we see a different game.
Adam, always appreciate it, man.
Sounds good. Talk to you guys.
There he is. Adam Hill from the Las Vegas Review-Journal, joining us on our Progressive guest line. Tonight, here in town, Vegas right now, plus 111 at Circa against the Dallas Stars. We got our best bets coming up and an interesting anecdote regarding why the Broncos selected Bo Nix with the 12th overall pick.
This is VSiN Primetime with Tim Murray and Jonathan Von Tobel on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Make sure to check out VSiN.com, folks. We got a lot of great content up on the site that was retooled a couple of months back. Runs like a pristine machine. We got a lot of baseball best bets. Of course, Adam Burke up there. We've got NFL draft winners and losers from Matt Humans. Everybody loves those things. The Colts were winners, baby. And more. Check it out now. VSiN.com.
You never put in your mock draft, and I would have beat your brains in.
You don't know that. I would have maybe adjusted it.
But you never did. So I think that should be a win for me because I'm down 2-0 in our head-to-head competitions. You said you were going to put it in.
Sure. If you want to take a win on a technicality like a coward, take it.
I think you were the coward. You didn't put it in. Couldn't have.
Got to get your win somehow.
Well, yeah.
Go ahead, take it.
Scared.
Yep.
Number 37, baby.
On what?
Number 37 on Huddle Report.
Out of how many?
Like 100 some odd.
Okay.
There was some guy who tweeted and said I was top 5. I don't know who that guy was, but I appreciate you. All right. I do want to get to this article from Albert Breer regarding Bo Nix's selection at 12. Will it lead you to betting him to win Offensive Rookie of the Year? But we got some breaking news from JVT. He's got a best bet for tonight. So can we hit the graphic? Because this was sprung on us last minute. We got a best bet. So here we go.
I see you using an old style.
I'm giving you the keys to the kingdom.
Putting our money where our mouth is.
I like to live dangerously.
It's time for Best Bets.
Come on, Jerry, it's a lock.
All right, 3 NBA games tonight. We got 2 NHL games, a plethora of baseball, looks like in totality, as we've got one game about to get underway in Baltimore. The Orioles and Yankees about to get underway at Camden Yards. What do you got for us?
This is going to go well. I'm going to steal this from somebody. I'm not going to name the person because they mentioned it in passing, and I don't know if this was something that they wanted out there. But I'm going to steal it from him anyway. And if he's listening and watching, thanks. So I take no credit for this.
Well, if it hits, you take credit for it.
Sure. Yeah. Let's go Trey Murphy III over points today, 15.5 for the New Orleans Pelicans. 18 points in the last 2 games, be damned. He is their best player at this point right now. I will agree with that sentiment. And he is going to put up quite a few shot attempts. I mean, he had 18 in game 1. He had 12 last time out. The minutes are there. He's averaging 42 minutes a game. They don't really have much else here at the New Orleans Pelicans. And if you're up against it, what better way to do it than to shoot your way out with the best player on the floor? Let's go over 15.5 points. Trey Murphy III today against the Oklahoma City Thunder.
All right. That game starting at 8:30 Eastern. New Orleans right now is catching 4.5, depending on where you look, 5 at DraftKings against the Oklahoma City Thunder as they try to avoid being swept. But they wouldn't be the first team to get swept. No, that would be the Phoenix Suns, who went off as what, minus 140 favorites in that series,
yep.
And did not win a game. Bradley Beal, though, said, never been swept in my life. No, now you have.
Never been swept a day in my life, which I don't think makes any sense.
That doesn't make a ton of sense,
Yep.
but no, now you have. So what do you say today to the media? I'll be damned.
Yeah. Man, that Minnesota team, and I think we'll talk more about it later,
Yes,
but
we will.
Holy smokes. Denver better watch out, tell you that much.
That is assuming Denver closes out the Lakers, which I think is a fair assumption. That is going to be a hell of a series, and that'll be a lot of fun to watch. You have a Minnesota ticket, 30-1 to win the West?
Yeah, 30-1 to win the West.
All right.
From back in November. So we've been, now, full disclosure, I also bet them to win the West last year. Like I have been in on this Rudy Gobert thing. Like I think not in terms of just him individually, like how he fits with Karl Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards and the peak of their powers. So I will admit that this is the second year I've done it, but I do think that obviously pretty good spot, Western Conference semifinalist at least at this point right now with that ticket in hand. So, and by the way, a matchup that I think works well for them if it's the Denver Nuggets in the next round. So we'll see if that's the case. But boy, oh boy, you got a closer in Michael Jordan. I mean, Anthony Edwards. It's absolutely incredible what this team can do. Good depth, too.
Man, just imagine how much crap he's going to talk while on Team USA this summer. He already said he was, because Kevin Durant and Devin Booker both on Team USA. I'm going to go ahead and say Kawhi Leonard probably not going to make it over to Paris. Maybe as a vacation, but I don't think he'll be there on that. So we got one best bet, courtesy of JVT via someone. Trey Murphy over how many points? 15.5?
15.5. Let's do it.
There we go. All right. I want to read you something from Albert Breer's article in SI.com. It was closing in on noon on a sunny, mild, late winter morning in Eugene, Oregon, and Bo Nix was reaching down to grab his bag as he and the Denver Broncos Brain Trust were wrapping up 3 hours of meeting time and getting set to head out to the field for his workout. "What's in your backpack?" Sean Payton asked. Nix reached inside, grabbed a roll of tape that he explained he needed for his ankles if he were going to train. He pulled out a spare pair of football cleats and a lacrosse ball that he said that he'd use for rolling out his back. And what wasn't in the bag was just as significant. Everything was football related. All of it. I mean,
sign me up for plus 750 most regular season rookie passing yards.
That's why I would spend the 12th overall pick on the quarterback of the future, Bo Nix. Through the pre-draft process, and in particular with quarterbacks, teams dispatch execs, scouts, and coaches to cut through the noise. There's the image projected, and there's the real guy behind it. And sometimes they don't match up. Most of the time, that's when a team will miss on a prospect. Moments such as the one Peyton, Denver GM, George Patton, and their guys had that morning at Oregon are like gold for NFL teams.
Okay. I'm going to ask you to do something here, Tim.
Okay.
Close your eyes.
Okay.
Take a deep breath. Let's evacuate from your mind your feelings about taking Bo Nix to 12th overall and what happened in the NFL draft with those wagers surrounding Bo Nix and where he would go. Is there a scenario in which Bo Nix can win Offensive Rookie of the Year, can be successful. If you eliminate all the negative feelings about the overdrafting of him, what is the upside? What is the best scenario for Bo Nix? Because as I mentioned, he's plus 750 to be the rookie quarterback passing leader. He is 16-1 to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. And I would say, as a first-round pick and a quarterback who's got a very clear path to a starting job, it's a very good spot to be in if we're talking about winning this award. Obviously, Caleb Williams should be favored for a very big reason. Mm-hmm. What is the upside? What is the positive for Bo Nix? Can he be successful?
Yes.
Okay.
I do think this offense, tailored around him, he has absolutely a chance to be Rookie of the Year. And I would much rather play him at 16-1 to win Offensive Rookie of the Year versus plus 750 for leader in passing yards because, first off, the odds are longer. Mm-hmm. Secondly, I do think...
By the way, if he leads them in passing, there's a pretty good shot.
Right, I think it's correlated too. Yeah, good point. But as Todd McShay said on Friday, this is an arrogant pick from Sean Payton. And he wasn't necessarily saying it negatively. He was just saying Sean Payton may be the only head coach in the entire NFL that thinks Bo Nix is worthy of the 12th overall pick. Sean Payton has won a Super Bowl before. Sean Payton has been thought of and believed to be one of the most, I don't know if I could say brilliant, but pretty sharp offensive minds. Mm-hmm. And if he thinks that this guy, Bo Nix, can run his offense, then yeah, I do think at 16-1, it's an interesting conversation to have. Caleb Williams, you look at the weapons that they have put around Caleb Williams. You got DJ Moore, you've got Keenan Allen. They went out and drafted Rome Odunze. He is the rightful favorite, but I think when we're looking at this from a honest discussion standpoint, to me, I would much rather bet Bo Nix to win Offensive Rookie of the Year versus Drake May. I don't think Drake May is going to play much at all this year.
Well, I think he's going to play. I just think he's got nothing around him. Right? It's a similar situation that Justin Fields found himself in.
I think Bo Nix is a day one starter in Denver.
Yeah,
I think it's pretty clear that he is going to have the advantage there. I think New England is going to want to start Jacoby Brissett. Will they ultimately start Drake May at some point? Yeah, it's certainly possible, but I think who's in a better situation to succeed right away? It's Bo Nix.
Yeah, and I think, too, this is somewhat lost because we were talking about him as like some decrepit quarterback who has no upside whatsoever. Russell Wilson did have, and this is, again, I always say by one measure, but by PFF standards and by other statistical standards, he had his best year since 2020 last year, right? So there was an improvement from Russell Wilson, and part of that is, right, having Sean Payton there and trying to turn things around. I have some questions as to whether this offensive line is going to hold up in front of Bo Nix. Russell Wilson, some of it was his fault. Under pressure, though, on 41% of his dropbacks last year. It's a really high number. So you got to fix that for a rookie quarterback in a very big way, and especially in a division that's got some pretty good pass rushers. But I think at the same time, kind of moving away from the draft and going like, okay, yes, they reached whatever. Yeah. Let's move past that. Let's talk about this. I do think when I was looking over this, having the advantage of being a quarterback, having the advantage of potentially having the job from day one, at 16-1, ahead of some of these other guys ahead of him, specifically as you mentioned, Drake May and others.
I'd rather bet him than J.J. McCarthy. Yeah. I don't think J.J. McCarthy is going to be the day one starter.
I don't know. I thought he was the second coming of Tom Brady.
All right, on the other side of the break, we'll talk about tonight's Evening on the Ice with Johnny Lazarus. It is VSiN Primetime.
This is VSiN Primetime with Tim Murray and Jonathan Von Tobel on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
It is Kentucky Derby time. You ready for the greatest 2 minutes in sports? Saddle up with DK Horse, an official DraftKings affiliate. Right now, new customers who download the DK Horse app can get a 100% deposit bonus up to $250 when they opt in with the code VSiNHorse. Just deposit $25 or more. Complete the playthrough requirement. Download DK Horse now to join the Run for the Roses action only on the DK Horse app.
You are fired up. You're throwing things. You're throwing your...
Well, I thought of a great joke, but I used the joke last year during the Kentucky Derby, so I wasn't going to do it again for a second consecutive year.
That's okay. Well, we'll see if we can get it out of you. You can always tweet the show, by the way. He's at me, JVT. I'm at 1 Tim Murray. And The old Palm Readers playbook has tweeted us at Mike Palm Readers. He said, remember Sean Payton was the Saints coach for the Minneapolis Miracle. It feels like the Knicks pick and hype is being forced by Payton to troll the Vikings if Knicks is better than JJ.
I mean, he did goad them, right, into moving up a pick. Yeah,
I got them up to 10.
It's a good point, Mike. It's a good point, Mike Palm Readers playbook. It's a good point.
We got a busy night on ice. Not as busy as the past handful of nights, but still 2 games to get to. And Johnny Lazarus joins us right now to help us break down these 2 games. He's still on cloud 9 as his beloved New York Rangers completed the sweep over the Washington Capitals. Yes,
I'm going to break in before we get to that. Johnny, look, I enjoy the sport of hockey. I have not watched anywhere near as much as you. My Nashville Predators. Have you seen anything like that? What the hell was that? Have you that meltdown from missing the goal to giving it up to then coughing that up in 62 seconds in overtime? Has there been anything like that?
Well, JVT, full transparency, I should have given you a heads up because that was the only leg of a 6-leg parlay I had yesterday that did not hit was Preds money line. So Sunday scaries were real tough for me last night. It would have been a $4K payout. So, could have booked a trip to Cabo or something with this week off that the Rangers have, but, just eating Uncrustables for dinner this week instead.
Got him at 89-1 to win the Stanley Cup. Was feeling great.
Yeah, I was bummed. That was tough. And if I'm a Nashville Predators fan, listen, the one thing I will say, something that's come up in conversation, on shows I've been on, which team down 3-1 can come back and win their series because there are a lot of 3-1 holes right now.
Give it to me.
In regard to all of the playoff series, but if there's one team I'm picking, the Nashville Predators.
I'm back in. Johnny's convinced me. I'm in.
That's how we reel it back in.
We knew it the whole time. They got it right where we want them.
All right, hold on. I'm just looking it up. 6-1. Just add it on, baby. 6-1 price right now. Just drop it on there. 89-1, 6-1. Just keep adding pieces to it. Yeah. What was it? 3-1 with 2 minutes to go.
Yeah, it was painful.
Hit the post. Up 3-2.
We don't need a recap. We were all there. We understand.
No, I don't know. We might have some.
I'll tell you this much.
We might have some new viewers and listeners.
Johnny, I don't know how much. We've gotten to know each other a little bit. I don't know how much you know about me. Yeah. I'm a Clippers fan. If the Clippers had lost and the Predators had lost in that fashion, oh boy, I don't know if I'd be here right now. I'll tell you that much.
30 points.
I mean, which team do you feel better about, though? I'd feel better about Nashville than the Clippers.
Whoa. We can't get into this. We're talking hockey.
I might just have to step back and let you guys two have at it.
Start spitting chiclets here. I'm talking about.
We got 2 games on the ice. I want to start with the night game because here in Vegas on Saturday night, the Golden Knights, as we talked to Adam Hill earlier in this hour, really did not play well at all outside of goaltending. Gets to overtime, double overtime. They lose 3-2. We've seen the market move in favor of Dallas here, not massively, but move from around a pick out to minus 120 or so favorite. So do you agree with this slight line movement towards Dallas? And what's your feel right now of this series kind of big picture, Johnny, after what we saw unfold on Saturday night?
To be honest, I don't agree. Vegas money line at home tonight was actually one of my best bets of the day on VSiN.com. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that the Vegas Golden Knights right now, special teams is very important in the playoffs. Their power play is clicking at a 50% rate, which is incredible. And their PK is at an 80% rate. So you look at those numbers, and those are very telling. Whereas Dallas, their power play, 20%, not bad. But their PK is at 50%. That is rough. And it's tough to win in the playoffs when your special teams aren't clicking. But the thing with the Golden Knights and Dallas in Game 3, Dallas threw everything they had. You can't go down 3-0 to the Golden Knights, especially on the road. Tonight, Vegas will bounce back. I'm very confident in their ability to bounce back, especially at the Fortress, that building. We've talked about it. It is a tough place to play. I don't see the Golden Knights dropping 2 in a row at home. Plus, a big thing in the playoffs, too, we talk about special teams goaltending, secondary scoring. Dallas has gotten none of that. This is a team that we talked about in the regular season. They had 2 30-plus goal scorers, and they had 6 20-plus goal scorers. They probably had the best depth, best secondary scoring you could find in the NHL. It's been non-existent in these playoffs. Tyler Seguin, Matt Duchene, Rupe Hintz, and if I'm blanking on the fourth one right now, Joe Pavelski, 4 guys who are big-time scorers, have not scored a goal in this series yet. I think this is Vegas's game, and the fact that they're home dogs in this game, couldn't ask for much more. I'm all over Vegas in this one.
What do you make of the total? Some spots open 6. We moved off that 5.5. The first game was high scoring. You had 7 goals, but the last 2 have gone well under the number. What do you make of this bump down to 5.5? What do you expect?
Well, Logan Thompson's been phenomenal in goal for Vegas, so it's tough to think that this will be a high-scoring one. Jay Gottinger's been a little bit different. At times he could be the best goalie in the league. Other times he looks just, very non-confident. I don't know what the word would be there. So excuse me on that one. But I would think this is going to gear more toward the low-scoring side. But you never really know with the special teams in this situation with how well Vegas is clicking on the power play. They haven't gotten so many attempts throughout the series. There haven't been a lot of calls made in this one, but the fact that Jay Gottinger is below a 900 save percentage to me is a little bit concerning. But with the way Logan Thompson's playing, I mean, he's at a 927. Like, I think if it's going to be the over, I think it's going to be one-sided. I'll put it that way. Like, this game to me is going to be 2-2, 2-1, 3-1, or it's going to be like 5-0, 6-1. Like, it's no in between.
At JLazzy23 is where you can find him on Twitter. All right, the game starting top of the hour. We have a closeout potential. They were up 3-0. The Panthers were. They lose game 4 in Tampa 6-3. Now an opportunity to bounce back, and I know that you retweeted a picture of whatever these rally towels are. They're lighting up, so that's going to be pulsating through the arena tonight. But significant favorites, a little bit of movement towards Florida, open around -170, depending on what shop. You're looking at -180 or so. Do the Panthers close out the Lightning tonight, Johnny?
I mean, this one's really tough. This is where I would actually lean the total.
Okay.
I like the under in this one. This is more of a goaltending duel than Vegas and Dallas, even though those two goalies are great too. But we still have not seen the best of Andrei Vasilevskiy yet. To me, in this series, he hasn't stolen one, and I think he's always due to steal one. To me, this game is the one where I think it's low scoring. I like the under in this game, but I also do like Tampa as the underdog here too. And Tampa Bay is a team that I was very high on coming into the playoffs, and I'm not trying to take away any credit from Florida. That team, top to bottom, they are one of the most dangerous and scary teams in the NHL. But this Tampa team is a different beast, and I think the last game told us a lot. This series could easily be tied at 2-2. Game 2 goes into overtime. Florida gets the best of them. I think there's just something about Andrei Vasilevskiy. Just my gut tells me this is the game he steals. Because in a playoff series, especially with two teams that are this good, there's always one game where the team that deserves to win does not. We've seen it happen so many times. Happened in LA and Edmonton last night. The Oilers had no business winning that game. But Stuart Skinner steals one, stands on his head. To me, that's going to be tonight with Andrei Vasilevskiy.
So going to the next day, kind of that point, I like hockey analytics to kind of tell me a story for, these teams I haven't watched a ton, Johnny. And I look at Toronto and Boston. There's a lot of numbers that point to Toronto kind of outplaying Boston in this series, and yet they're down 3-1. So what transpires in the next matchup tomorrow?
I mean, that is just that's the all-time vibe series, right? Like, you want to talk about playoffs, and you want to talk about which team has positive vibes, which team's vibes are just all over the place. And the Toronto Maple Leafs right now, at least from the outside perspective, I'm not there covering the team every day, but it looks like they're somewhat in shambles. I mean, this core has been together now for almost a decade. They haven't been able to get it done. They consistently find themselves in holes like this, and they don't really have the stick-to-itiveness, I guess, to get out of it. And Boston, Jeremy Swayman right now, if you had to pick a Conn Smythe Trophy winner as the playoff MVP, Jeremy Swayman is my guy for Boston. He's been lights out for the Bruins. His numbers are incredible. A .956 save percentage is absurd in the playoffs. So right now, I think Boston was in this spot last year, Game 5, on home ice, chance to put it away. They didn't. Florida gets back in the series. Florida wins it in 7. We all know how that played out. To me, Boston just put the Leafs out of their misery and win this thing in 5.
He's Johnny Lazarus. Read his work at VSiN.com. Follow him at JLazzy23. Johnny, appreciate it, man.
Thank you, guys. But before I go, I do need to hear this Kentucky Derby joke. I didn't hear it before.
I was just like,
get away with it, JVT.
Well, they call it the greatest 2 minutes in sports, and that's what I tell my wife on Saturday night.
Oh, boo.
Yeah.
Boo.
Figured it was going that route. But, guys, as always, I appreciate it.
See you, man.
A family program. I don't know if it is, but come on. Better than that.
Who said that's what it's about?
What?
We play Monopoly on Saturday.
In 2 minutes? 1 hour in the books. I don't know if we could top this hour.